Welcome to the cemetery. I'm former gravedigger Nathan Barnett from spooky old New England, and you're watching Grave Stories. This is the Friday casual episode where I read Reddit stories and don't do all the research and writing a script of my own that I normally do on the Monday episodes. By the way, there's a really good one coming this Monday. I had to stop multiple times during the week because I was freaking myself out too much late at night writing and researching this topic. It's really good. It's a very, very original, very unique situation and case that I'm excited to talk about and read to you on Monday. But right now we're going to read two stories that I found on Reddit that are pretty spooky. I like these two, and we're going to have a guest segment from Tinfoil Tom as well. So get ready for Casual Fridays, everyone. Grave Stories Read Reddit edition. Here we go. Let's now read this post from someone who lives in the area, and it's by this man named Nefra. Nefra, I'm guessing, is his artist name. He lives in Boulder, Colorado now. Seems like he makes music. I found his SoundCloud, and this is an image of him, and this is his story. Okay, so side note, the Bell Witch haunting apparently is a real thing. They made a movie about it, and this is what this description says. The Bell Witch haunting is a powerful supernatural historic thriller based on terrifying actual events that took place in Robertson County, Tennessee from 1817 to 1821, in which a spirit tormented John Bell and his family, leaving him in a terrifying fight against the vengeful ghost to save his children and his own life. The haunting is the only known case where a spirit actually took credit for killing someone. After visiting the Bells' home, Andrew Jackson said, "I vow I would rather fight the entire British army single-handed than face this witch again." Whoa, this is going to be a good read. This is titled My Experiences with the Bell Witch Haunting. I lived in Adams, Tennessee, growing up from about ages 14 to 18, 2004 to 2008. A couple of weeks after my family and I moved there, something unexpected happened. I was mowing on my dad's tractor with a big 8-foot wide back-end mower. I was going down a hill when my horizon line violently was thrown around as the tractor tires hit something. I disengaged the mower, pulled the tractor around at the base of the hill I had just gone down. My blood went cold as I looked up through the swath I had just cut, like a buzzer going down the middle of someone's head making a lane in the grass. In that lane were 4 Native American burial graves. My parents started reaching out to anyone who might be able to identify the graves, anthropologists, historians, credited people, etc. Those people unanimously agreed that these 4 graves were from the Trail of Tears. They corroborated this from what I remember because of how the graves were laid, very, very shallow, with a giant slab of stone where a gravestone would be. The fact that they were interned on a hillside from keeping the water from sinking in and raising the bodies since they had to bury them so quickly, and many other reasons. I consider myself a very logical, driven, and rationally minded person. Basically, I try to let my empirical senses try to explain something before I'll open myself to other possibilities. Yet there were things that happened to me and my whole family that we weren't able to rationalize with the scientific mindset or anything logical. Ooh. Event 1. The activity in our house started shortly after the mowing incident. We heard heavy knocking and pounding on the brick outer wall of the house. Encircling the house, no matter where you were in the house, you could hear the knocking. Some nights I would hear running footsteps accompanying the pounding. This activity happened nearly every night. As the nights passed, I started feeling a heavy presence in my room, a suffocating one, like a heavy weight sitting on my solar plexus, constantly. Whatever was happening decided to latch on to me. Event 2. Things continued to escalate. One night I was letting my golden retriever out to go pee. We had a ranch-style house overlooking the Red River. The door we were exiting was one on the backside of the house facing the river. As I open the door, I start hearing faint whispering, something akin to leaves being blown scratching across the ground. I looked up at the trees to see if the wind was blowing. Everything was perfectly still. It was fall in Tennessee, so tons of leaves on the ground. They were not moving either. The scratchy blowing leaves noise continued, but as it continued, it grew closer and louder. It sounded like a language of some sort, like how you'd imagine an incantation of something nefarious in the tone of the sound. I looked down at my golden retriever. All of the hair on her back was standing up and she was snarling like a rabid wolf. Yet not barking, just kind of frozen in fear response. I started getting extremely nauseous and could smell sulfur. I was completely frozen when my dog launches herself through the door's threshold and starts gnashing her teeth mid-air, snarling and chomping. The voices were now coming directly from in front of me. I could hear them as if someone was standing there a foot or two away. I grabbed my dog mid-air and pulled her quickly inside, slammed the door, and threw the deadbolt into place. The door and frame shook violently as a vicious pounding started hammering on the threshold. I ran with my dog to the center of the house, flipping on every light along the way. We sat there alone all night until the sun came up. Ginger, my golden retriever, laid across my lap the entire night, pressing into me while she whimpered for hours. All I could do was pet her and try to calm her down, which also helped me down-regulate. This was impossible, though. The entire night until sunrise, the back door was thumping. Event 3. It happened when I was coming home from football practice. I had all my gear in a gym bag over my left shoulder. This is important because of how I entered the house. As I closed the front door behind me, I began setting down the gear bag from my left side, which caused me to look right. The room when you first walked in was our library, where we had a leather couch, chair, piano, bookshelves, and a wooden rocking chair. There was something sitting in the rocking chair. My peripheral vision caught it first, the chair going back and forth. As my vision centered on the chair, there was a humanoid-looking shape sitting there, head glancing downward at the book it was holding. Wait, what? Long black hair drawn down over its head and completely void of light. To picture what I saw, I imagined the silhouette of a person, but rather a void of light. Okay, wait. I didn't read this whole story. I didn't want to give it away from myself. I just started reading it. I was like, oh, this one sounds pretty good. This is insane. What? The light coming in around the edges of it seemed to be eaten up by the presence/void as the light spilled over the contour edges of the humanoid shape, like how black holes are visualized, almost exactly. It felt like I had jumped off a bridge into ice water. I blasted myself backwards against the door, screaming, and fell down. As I was falling, I saw the void blur suddenly as it shot across the walls of the house and out through a huge bay window overlooking the river. My golden retriever was in the room next to me, and she sprinted to chase the shadow across the walls, barking and clawing at the walls. After it left through the window, my dog came to me and laid on my lap until my parents got home. Event 4. I was fishing with my cousin Jack on the river by our house. We were right on the bend of the river, so the moon would be shining on both sides of the river, racing out at 2 lines like a 90-degree angle from the house. Super beautiful when you weren't on edge. The reason I bring this up, there was a lot of light on the river that evening. Jack was about 10 or so at the time. He reaches up and taps me. "Does that lady need help?" I looked to where he was pointing, and there was a pale woman dressed in white clothes going back and forth, picking up stones just to the left of us across the river. I had seen her many times before around the property, and whenever I would get close, she would disappear behind a tree or something similar would happen. Knowing this, I told Jack as calmly as I could that it was time for dinner and he needed to go up to my mom immediately in an attempt to not scare him. When I walked him up and made sure he was on his way, I looked back over and she was gone, but I could hear the splashing in the water below. Event 5. Myself, my dad, his friends, and some other family members were staked out along the river bend on the gravel bar beneath the rise to our house. Nothing out of the ordinary at first. It was July 4th, and we were having an actual good time for a change. We were all spread out about 15 yards from each other. Each man had a low-end gas Coleman lantern. As the sun was setting, my dad looks over at me like something was bugging him. He told me later he felt like someone had just thrown a bucket of ice water all over him before it began. The sun had just gone down when this happened. In unison, all the lanterns were cranked up full blast. Then, just as quickly, became barely a flame. Then the fires roared to life again. Down to barely a flame, roared to life, then went back completely out. Right as the flames went out, we heard the most godforsaken scream by some woman across the river. Okay, I just got chills. Oh gosh. Dude, these casual Fridays are gonna be hard for me because I'm not gonna read the stories until I'm here on camera, and I'm just gonna be reacting and getting goosebumps. The normal episodes, like the last one with the man controlling the rain and the one that's coming up next week, which is a very creepy story. Those are very researched, and I know those stories inside and out, and I write a script and then read off that script. So I'm not as scared when I shoot these videos, but dang, these Friday ones are going to be hard for me because I'm just going to be like getting goosebumps the whole time. Sorry, I'm going to try not to interrupt too much. Oh boy, here we go. Whatever it was kept on screaming despite our best attempts to call out to help. As her scream reached a crescendo, it sounded like what I could only imagine a person's throat being cut interpreted her scream. The sound of a dead weight fall of a human body tumbled down the hillside across from us and splashed violently into the water. What? This is kind of like ridiculous how much stuff is happening. At this point, all the guys had their flashlights out. That's when something started swimming and splashing around in the water on both sides of the river bend. The splashing receded towards the opposite gravel bar, and whatever it was got out and started pacing back and forth across the rocks there. We were pointing all of our flashlights to where the sound was coming from, but we couldn't identify where it was originating. It's safe to say we were running up the hill at this point. We all got inside the house, locked the doors, and gathered in the central living room. Nobody wanted to leave for fear of what was outside. We all stayed up that night because the wall pounding was more violent than it had ever been. Bam, 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 all night, like the ticking of some demonic clock. I couldn't sleep for 2 days after this event. Event 6, Lost Time. I was walking through the woods near the Bell Witch Cave. One moment it was completely sunny and blue skies about mid-afternoon. The next moment it was overcast and looked like maybe 4 p.m. Event 7, Night Terrors, torture dreams, being held down and brutally drawn and quartered, dreams of walking through the house and the void person placing their hand on my chest and pushing through my solar plexus, body violently shaking in the dream like having a seizure. Event 8, visited the Bell House / plantation marker in a tobacco field adjacent to my family's property. Brought friends to try and prove that something crazy was happening to my family. The rite of passage in the area is to go to the stone marker where the paranormal events happened hundreds of years ago, and then dance on the stone saying, "I don't believe in the Bell Witch." I got them to promise that they wouldn't do that while we went. Of course, the moment we get there, one guy who doubted the legends in a massive way jumps up onto the stone marker and starts screaming, "I don't believe in the Bell Witch," as loud as he could. I got so upset at him. I'm the only one that knows the way back. So I said, "Come on, guys, we're leaving." In this area, it's known as the Tennessee River Valley. So there's tons of flowing ice water, etc. around these tobacco fields. The reason this is important is because of what happened next. I can't handle this. We're making good time walking back across the crop field, hundreds of yards long. A mist starts rolling in from the river bends and begins to saturate the field. The temperature drops easily 25 degrees or so, and we start seeing our breath. I begin to smell sulfur in the breeze. As the mist became a fog, it began. I started hearing this wheezy and deeply cavernous sounding breath around us, like being inside a cave that was breathing. Out of nowhere, we started hearing these giant blasting sounds, and I realized something was walking on the chopped tobacco stalks. Side note, when they harvest tobacco, they use a machete and cut down at 45-degree angle, leaving about 3.5 feet of brittle stalk poking out of the ground. When you step on the stalks, they disintegrate in a very loud way as they burst apart. This starts happening all around us like an army of native spirits running around as if we were in a bandwagon battle. The blasts were coming from every single direction in the fog. Hey, a new subscriber. That's when I hear it. That deep cavernous noise turns into this giant sniffing sound, like some Lovecraftian beast smelling its prey just out of eyesight. At this point, I yell, "Run!" in pure panic mode. We take off across the field, trying not to trip and be skewered on the stalks. They dry out and get really sharp when they harvest them. Also, Robertson County is the world's largest producer of tobacco per square mile, so these fields are everywhere. Fun fact. As we are exiting the field and our feet hit the gravel road, the lower center part of my back suddenly explodes in agony. I look down and there's a massive rock laying at my feet, and I realize I had just been assaulted By the time I got to my house and examined my back in a mirror, the bruise was about the size of a basketball and was already turning black. Event 8. Woke up outside about 3 in the morning. I was laying next to the 4 graves on the property. The night was awfully cold, but I woke up soaked in sweat. We lived there for so long that I have many events to share, process, and willing to have discussions about my time there with you all. It is really hard for me to talk about this stuff without re-traumatizing myself, but my friends and family are encouraging me to share my experiences with like-minded people so I can try to find peace surrounding my trauma. Thank you for reading. Wow. Well, there you go, everyone. I don't quite know how I feel about these Reddit ones because you can't quite fact check them. And this one, for example, had so many events and so many crazy, wild things happen in it. It tends to make you go, is this real? But the other episodes I do from on Mondays, which are definitely real cases with real people, locations, dates, times, interviews, those are more intriguing to me. So let me know what you think. Should I keep doing these more fun, casual Friday ones just to have some more grave stories up? Or I just kind of read some of the more believable-ish cases and stories on Reddit? Or should I just stick to the researched ones? Maybe just do one episode a week. Let me know. Please let me know. If you're interested in these, I will keep doing them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I'm so close to 500,000 subscribers, and it's been 16 years. Can't wait to get there. Please like and subscribe. Do all the nonsense. It really does help out if you do these things. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.